everyone. Welcome. We are traveling the road to Imaging USA. It is only 26 more days before the event, before we see you in Louisville. We are so excited for this. This is going to be an amazing, amazing show. And today I am so excited to get to introduce you to Deanna Robles. So before I jump in and start asking her questions and invite you guys to do the same, I just want to tell you how excited I am to include her in our speaker lineup. So Deanna is a new board member this year, and she's an amazing photographer. And on top of everything else, she's just one of the most remarkable humans you will ever meet. She is so full of love and giving, and she just wants everyone to do and just be successful and to love this industry. So I am so excited to introduce you to Deanna. Deanna, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Angela. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you. So before we get started, can we just talk a little bit about your class that you have at Imaging?
Yeah, absolutely. I am so excited to be speaking at Imaging USA this year. I believe I'm scheduled for the 30th, right, at
Yeah.
10.
Tuesday.
I'm a maternity photographer, so we will be discussing all things maternity. I'll be covering workflow, which is super important to me. We'll be talking about wardrobe tips, posing tips, some creative lighting. It's going to be so fun.
This is good. This is really good. So you actually travel around the country and do workshops teaching people, photography and maternity
Yes.
photography specifically, right?
Yes, I do. I
Have
love
you
it.
had a really busy year? Have you been around a lot this year?
This year, well, 2023 was a little crazy. Hmm, I didn't I feel like in the beginning of the year, I didn't plan out the dates correctly. So I feel like I was like back to back traveling. And I'm like, oh, my babies need me. So this year kind of spaced them out a little bit more, especially with like imaging and a few other things that I have planned. I kind of spaced out my workshops a little bit more, but I am so excited. I love to travel and teach. I last year, no, it was 2022. I taught in Paris, so like that was fun too. But yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
That is so awesome. So tell me, you've been a photographer for how long?
I've been in business for about 10 years now, and I've been focusing on maternity for about six.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
six
What
years.
made you move towards, specific, kind of focusing on maternity?
Oh, I absolutely love maternity photography because I'm a mom myself of two. And when I was pregnant with my son, I had gained so much weight. I gained like 65 pounds. And unfortunately, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't love what I saw. And I was really down on myself. So it was really difficult for me to see the beauty in the journey.
Yeah.
Fast forward to when I started doing maternity photography, like I didn't want women to feel the way I felt. So I made it my passion and my goal to make women feel beautiful, help them to see themselves the way I see them. And I want them leaving the studio feeling confident and beautiful and really embracing their bodies. You know, our bodies go through so many changes during pregnancy. So it's hard to like really embrace it all, but to think of the miracle that it is to be able to carry a child, I love it, and I want women to embrace every aspect of that. So it's my biggest passion. I love it.
Oh, I love that. I love that as an experience. And just knowing you, having known you for the last couple of years, um, yeah, I can see how your heart would be attracted
Thanks.
to an opportunity to get to really uplift people at a sweet, sweet time in their lives, right? Like
Yes,
that's a big part of it.
absolutely.
Oh, I love
Absolutely.
that.
Thank you.
It's so good. It's so good. So we had so much to talk about when we were in our pre-show interview, and hopefully we'll get to a lot of it here for you guys.
Yes.
But one of the things that I just find endearing about you is you are always so incredibly consistent and kind and loving and thoughtful, and you just show up. You show up honestly, and you show up fully and completely. And I value and appreciate that more than you can even imagine. That all being said, there's a lot to unpack as far as being a creative and being a business owner, right? But
Right.
what do you think are your keys to success? Like, what is there something that you would point to? Um,
Yeah, I think just being yourself, right? Like be you. There's nothing worse than like faking it. I hate that phrase, like fake it till you make it, like I
yeah,
just be you and people will fall in love with you, they'll relate to you
yeah,
and your story and your journey. And just, being honest and open. That's one of the things that um I love most is just being open and transparent about everything, so and I just feel like that's one of the things that um photographers and just people in general can relate to is when you're open and honest about who you are and just being yourself. So and that's it's a way that I connect the most with people for sure.
and so how old are your little ones?
My son is 10 and my daughter is 5.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
sweet, sweet ages. Because I always wonder about that just the idea of the seasons of life, right?
Right.
Like you got into maternity,
Mhm.
kind of as a new mom, right? When you were
Yeah.
in those phases. So um, just kind of thinking about those seasons of life, because I also know you're very popular on social media. And we talked a little bit about the challenges and what that faces and how that does affect your life, and depending on what season of life you're in, and how,
Right.
family time and all of that.
Right.
But just I know a lot of people, there's always that part of our marketing that we feel like we have to be very involved in social media. But do you have any advice for people as they are building their audience, or even maintaining what they're
Mhm.
doing on social?
Yeah, absolutely. I was mentioning earlier that one of my struggles last year was I didn't set limits and I didn't set boundaries. And unfortunately, it hit me a little hard. I struggled a little bit more with my mental health last year. Um, and it was just, I just really felt like I needed to take a step back. So I did kind of remove myself a little bit. I took it a little bit slower. I noticed that I wasn't even wanting to take as many clients anymore. I was just so overwhelmed. And unfortunately, my family kind of, felt the brunt of that, where I was just so like, um, occupied with like Instagram and like, getting as many clients as possible and just like losing myself in all of that kind of in a sense. So I did take a step back a little bit from Instagram and just kind of, let me slow down a little bit and really focus on what's most important, which was my family. So um, for me, it's just like not to lose yourself in social media.
Mhm.
Um, the other thing that I struggled with was comparison started to set in, where it's like, I already struggled with like my personal insecurities throughout my life, and so like just constantly being involved in like the social media, I started like comparing myself like I'm not good enough. I'm not a good enough photographer. I'm not a good enough, mother. You see all these mom bloggers and I'm like, I'm not a good enough mother. I'm not a good enough this and that. And just so many aspects of my life, I felt like I was becoming so insecure. And it got to the point where I know it's a little surprising, but it got to the point where I'm like, is this even what I want to do anymore? I began to question myself. And they say comparison is a thief of joy, and it really is. Um, so I needed to step back and just evaluate everything, and kind of put things in their place. Like, what is my priority, and what deserves most of my energy and my time, and and my love. So that's one thing that I am focusing on for 2024, where I'm setting limits, I'm setting boundaries. Obviously, this is our job, so we do have to hustle, right? We do have to get our clients, but um, I needed to learn to set boundaries, and definitely that's one of the things for me that I would um, encourage photographers to keep in mind. Like you're like work is work, and obviously we need to sustain our families and all that, but we have to make sure that we're not losing ourselves in the process.
Yeah, which can be so easy to do, especially if we work from home, or if we,
Yep.
even if you don't work from home, like it's still, you don't really separate yourself sometimes from what you do, right? Like, because we're creatives, we're pretty wholehearted in that.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you say that, because one thing that my husband jokes, well, he used to joke about, was, you left a 9 to 5 job to work 24/7. And I'm like, dang, you're right. And I don't want my family to have to compete with work for my attention. At the end of the day, I wanted to do this, and have my own schedule, and just be in charge of my schedule, was because I wanted to spend more time with my family and be present for my kids and my husband. And, unfortunately, it wasn't that in the beginning. So
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way, like managing my time properly. But yeah, it's, we're all learning, right? We're all learning
And
here
that's the
still.
thing. And I do think that it has something to do with stages of life too. And
Right,
sometimes you're able to do more in certain stages than other stages. And
right,
and I think that's okay too. I think it's
right.
okay to, you know, to allow yourself to be different every year. I don't think you have to be the
Absolutely,
same. It doesn't always have to
absolutely.
be just straight up, right? Like
Right,
we can take a break and we can rest and it's
right,
okay.
right.
Um, what we talked a little bit about vulnerability, and I think our audience has already kind of experienced that. They understand that you're a person who shares really openly and deeply. What does vulnerability mean to you?
Um, One thing that I gotta say, I'm not one that is prideful at all. I am, like, so far from being prideful, but one thing I do pride myself in is being open and transparent. I am not ashamed of sharing my highs and my lows. I think it's important, because the reality is, as business owners, it can be lonely, right? Like, this journey, you know, we're working from home sometimes, and yeah, we work with clients, but then we also deal with situations in our businesses that they're not always great. And it's like, you want to be able to share these struggles with someone, who understands and can relate with you. And it's like, sometimes if I'm frustrated, with the situation that happened in my business, and I'll vent to my husband, and he's not a photographer. Like, he tries his best to be there for me. He's great. He's amazing, you know. But he doesn't really 100% know or understand, right? So, it's to me, it's important to be able to have those circle of friends, or to be able to network and connect with people who understand you. But it's like, how can you connect, if you're only talking about, like, all the good stuff? It's like, we connect most deeply when we share in our struggles and in our hardships. So I try my best to be as vulnerable as possible, and to share everything. I'm an open book. I'm very transparent with everyone. I try my best to share the highs and the lows. And I'm not afraid. I'm not ashamed or afraid to do it, because, I feel like people need to hear that, and they can connect and learn from those same situations or circumstances that you experience. It definitely
Absolutely.
helps them in the journey. So I'm definitely like, I'm an open book.
I feel like that doesn't just you don't just say that for your photographer friends. I think
Yeah,
like how does that make you does that change, I guess the question is, does it change how you are as a photographer or how does that help you as a photographer?
absolutely. It does, because it's not only with my photographer friends. I'm open and vulnerable with my clients as well. As a mom, I primarily work with maternity clients, so the majority of my clients are pregnant, and I can relate to them. And when I'm open and vulnerable, they connect on a completely different level. And yes, we want to create beautiful photos and want them to feel like a goddess, right? But also, like, not everyone's journey is the same. And maybe I have some clients that come in and they feel beautiful and confident and they can rule the world. But then I also have clients who come in who are incredibly insecure, and
Mm.
they come in and it's it's so funny to it's not funny, but it's crazy, because it's like, I feel like when we talk during our consultation, we've already connected and have already been vulnerable. So there have been times where they come into the studio And the moment they walk in, they break down and they cry. And I embrace them, and because we've already connected, and then like their session, it's just on a whole nother level because now we're like,
Mm.
we've already connected so deeply. And it really does transform not only the way they feel about themselves, but the way they exude those emotions in their photos.
Yeah.
So it really is important for me to be open and vulnerable and transparent, um, with my clients as well as fellow photographers.
And I feel like in that space, they're also very safe. They feel very
Yeah,
safe. And I imagine they probably share way more with you
yeah,
because of who you are, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I love that. And then I don't know, it seems just as a photographer myself, I feel like there's like a reciprocal feeling that you get back from that, right? Because you give so much to
1000,
them, but I know it feels so good when you're creating
absolutely,
on that level too.
absolutely.
I'm gonna jump topics real quick, and as you guys are listening and you want to ask questions, please feel free to do so. But I love your story. I just love your story about imaging and you kind of where you are in your journey within PPA. Um, because this is your third year attending Imaging USA, is that
Yes,
right?
yes. This will be my third year attending imaging, and I'm so excited.
Let's start here. So first year attending imaging. Tell me about that. What was it like the first year that you attended imaging?
Yeah, I loved it so much. It was so I came from like all I knew was WPPI, right? So coming to imaging, I feel like was a different world. It was completely different. I absolutely loved it. It was nothing like I imagined. I loved connecting with so many photographers and speakers. Like they're all so amazing, and just like everything that PPA stands for, like I love. So it's just it. I came in with a whole different like perspective, um, and it was surprisingly like it kind of just it blew me away, honestly. So um, I loved it so much, and that's why I look forward to it every single year.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
amazing.
And just the getting all the people I think that you get to meet, which is really, really fantastic.
Oh,
The thing that I love about your story, so I met you 2 imagings ago, right?
hmm
So it was your second imaging, I think, right?
yeah,
Would that be
yep.
right? Um,
Yes, it was my second. Uh-huh.
and we met through a wonderful another amazing speaker, John Gress, and I remember meeting you, and we actually the very first thing we did was salsa dance.
Yes, we did.
I still love because we have a video of that. And I just fell in love with you instantly, which is so fun. Um, but what I love about your story is that you came to imaging, and then the second imaging, and we're going to talk about how you met John because I love that story too. But you're showing up now at your third imaging, and
hmm
you are a member of the board of directors. Right?
Yes,
You
yes.
were last year at Imaging. You were nominated and voted in, and so tell me a little bit about that ride. You know,
Oh my
what
goodness.
why like
Yes.
how did you get here and why?
Well, well, what a journey it's been. And I'm so humbled um, by the opportunity to be on the board and be a voice for photographers in the industry, or part of a voice for the photography industry. It's truly humbling. But the way it started, I actually met our president Kira through John and John Gress, our friend, and it's like I feel like we met and then we clicked. We connected so beautifully, and we've kind of been friends. So I remember one day she called me and she's like, "Hey, how do you feel about being nominated for the board of directors?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like I just started attending imaging. Like I didn't even know that much about PPA. I'm just like me, like and then she encouraged me so much. And again, it falls back to like those insecurities, like, no way am I good enough for this, like just doubting myself. And I just love when like there's just people in your circle or like the people that you connect with that can like really speak those words of encouragement over you. And that's what she did. So I applied and I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go. I didn't like, again, those doubts. And then I got called for an interview. And then I did the interview and I got off the phone, like the interview, and I was like, I don't think I did well at all. I told my husband, I'm like, no way I got this. And then next thing you know, I got called in and I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be voted in. I can't believe this is happening. But it's been quite the journey. And again, I'm just so honored and humbled to be a part of the board of directors. It's been amazing. I just been taking this year to really learn the ins and outs of PPA and just being a part. It's just has been so beautiful. I love it so much.
We love it, and we
Yeah.
love your voice. And let's also say, let's just go back because you started teaching and sharing when, like you've been doing this for a while. This isn't new, and yeah. So like, how long have you
Yeah.
been teaching?
So I started teaching like my own workshops in 2019. And then I attended my first like conference in 2020, which that's actually where I met John Gress. It's funny. This is why I love these kind of like events because you get to network and connect with so many people. And then they become like your best friends. Like, I remember when I met John, he was like walking down the hallway and I was freaking out. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's John Gress. I cannot believe it. I was like starstruck. And my husband's like, well, just go say hi. And I'm like, oh, absolutely not. No way. And then just as we were about to pass each other, my husband gives me a friendly little shove. And I kind of stumbled in front of John and I'm like, oh my goodness, John, hi, I'm Diana. I introduced myself. And let me tell you, we're like besties right now. And, you know, he's connecting with him and building that relationship. We tour and we kind of do our workshops together now. And, you know, we go to these conferences together and we get to hang out. But the beautiful thing is like, we've been able to connect with so many people and build so many, you know, relationships. So I feel like I'm going on a tangent. Am I
No,
answering
I
your
love
question?
it. I like, because it
But
makes me
yeah,
think of something else that we talked about that's often on people's minds, and we get a lot of questions about this. But it's about mentorships, and
yeah,
I tend to think of mentorships as a little more of an organic thing. It
yeah,
happens naturally when you meet people and you have similar. It's like building friendships. Like you have
right,
similar types of businesses or similar styles of the way you want to do business or what you
right,
photograph or
right.
right. And so I think imaging really gives you that opportunity to meet some of these people who are going to be like you, or maybe people who are
Right,
completely opposite of you, which is also really
right,
fantastic to learn from.
right,
But I love
absolutely.
that story about about John.
Oh, dear John.
Because he is
But,
also a really fantastic instructor. And so
yeah.
obviously you had been following him on social media, but do you have any besides being bumped into somebody, do you have any words of advice for people who are attending imaging who want to meet people and want to network? Like thoughts?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I like, not that I like to admit this, but I am a little bit more introverted. So when when I'm in a crowd full of people that I don't know, it's easy to kind of like fall back and kind of like hide in the corner and be too afraid to like go up and speak to people. But one thing that I love about imaging is just how friendly and how genuine these photographers and speakers are. Like you can go up to anyone and speak to, and everyone's just so friendly and wants to help. Like when I first started my business and I knew nothing about photography, I didn't know anything about the camera or how it works, and I would reach out to photographers for help. And oh my, I was so like shocked and taken aback by like their responses. Like I would ask a question and they would say like, Google it, and I'm like, is this what the industry is like? And I promised myself that I would never be that person. And how many people, how many photographers like me have experienced that? So I love, being able to gather in a place like imaging and be in a room full of people who've experienced the same things you have and can connect with you on all these levels. Like, the relationships you build are just, they're so beautiful. And I feel like these friendships like last forever. They're amazing. So I love, that's one thing that I love about imaging.
I love that. And so because I know that you have a huge presence, and you do a lot of workshops. I feel like mentoring is kind of also a give and take, isn't it? Like it's a relationship, right? So
Absolutely.
what
Hmm.
does that, I'm going to ask you that hard question. What does mentoring mean to you? Like when someone says to you, I'm looking for a mentor,
Hmm.
what do you think?
I love, like, one of the biggest things, like, again, going back to my story, I wish so bad that someone wanted to take me under their wing. I'm not, let me take that back. Not that I just didn't find the right people.
Yeah.
But just finding someone who not only is passionate about um wanting to help others, but passionate about, like, connecting with you and, like, going on this journey with you. Um, I've also stumbled across, like, when I started, I would, find a mentor. I would go to their workshop, and it's like, all right, the workshop is done, and then you don't hear from them ever again. I feel like that's such a disservice. I just feel like, when you find a mentor, you want to find someone that you resonate with, that you connect with, that you have a relationship with. And not that you're going to be like, talking all day, every day, because obviously we all have our lives, but, someone that that is going to be consistent, someone that that wants you to succeed. And it's not all about, like, oh, it's all about the money. It's not that at all. Like, you want someone who wants you to succeed and to grow. And honestly, like, there's also times where I've learned from my mentees. Like, we're that's one thing that I love so much, is that, like, we're all in this together. We're all learning. There's always something new coming up, and I just love, like, being able to learn new things and even learn from my mentees, and we're just all growing together. Like, to
Yeah.
me, that's so beautiful. And I feel like
Yeah.
if you can find a mentor that has that mentality, it's really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love that. It makes me think of mentorship in kind of like different categories. Like
Yeah.
I get that there are paid mentorships. That makes sense
Yeah.
because there's a lot of work that goes into creating
Right.
some of that content and that, right? So there's a bucket for that. And then there's this organic bucket that I kind of want to call friendship
Hmm.
slash, right? But I think of it as both people have to put in the pot. Right? So
Absolutely.
it's not like one gives and one takes. It
Right.
feels like it should be a give and a take. And so I love what you
Right.
just said when you said
Yeah.
you also learn from your mentees, because
Hmm.
you have to be if you want to find a mentor, I think you have to be a person who is putting yourself out there and is willing
Right.
to support and encourage, and like that's how we grow. I feel like that's how
Right.
we kind of rising tide raises all ships, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
That's fun to think about. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm always trying to figure out how do we connect people in new ways. So I'm going to say this while I'm thinking of it because we're getting to the end. One of those ways is if you guys come to Networking Avenue, which is Sunday evening at 6:30. It's right before the opening night party. And it will be at the Kick. So lots of signage. You guys will find it. Won't be a problem. All of our speakers, we are asking them to attend. They will be there. They will have little Ask Me buttons, and they will be inviting you to come and chat with them and just to get to know them a little bit. We'll have different
Mhm.
topic tables so you can find the topic that best suits you. And then we are also going to have some shooting bays and photographers and models and all of that stuff. So excited for this event. So come to that. You'll be seeing Deanna. She'll be there to talk to you about maternity
Yeah.
photography or anything else that she is open and willing to talking about.
Yeah.
And Deanna, is there any last bit of advice that you would give anyone at just as we're
Mm.
starting a brand new year? 2024 is where's the day two?
Right.
Any thoughts as we're heading into a new year?
Yeah. Besides being yourself, like, find what you love and, like, go for that. Don't let anyone hold you back or anything hold you back. Be passionate about whatever it is that you're passionate about, and like go full force in that. There were times where, people said, like, you can't just focus on one thing. Like, there's no way. And I'm like, watch me, and
Yeah.
like, don't let anyone or anything hold you back. Be kind, be loving, and just reach for the stars. Don't give up. Like, I know it's easy to fall into those, like, those moments where of doubt, or like, confusion, like, is this really what I should be doing? When you feel like that, just like push through, reach out to someone who loves you and cares, and let it out, and just keep pressing forward. Don't give up.
Oh, that's such good advice. Thank you, Deanna. I can't wait to see you in 26 days. 26
I am
days.
so excited. I can't wait.
It's going to be so much fun. We look forward to seeing the rest of you at Imaging USA in Louisville here soon. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode of The Road to Imaging USA.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.